There is a soundtrack to life in Ghana.
Really?
And it's not just our music. It's the sound that sells things to us, that makes us feel relatable. Sounds that we don't necessarily ask to remember, but we can't forget. They are not just advertisements or jingles, but they become a part of our conversations, our memories, and our culture. So here's the question that I have for you. How did a few seconds of sound
Good always happens with Gino.
become decades of memory? Welcome to Mad Conversations. This is where we document the stories behind Ghana's most successful marketing and advertising campaigns, but not just the campaigns, but the strategies, the decisions, and the cultural moments that turn brands into household names. We are not here for surface level discussions. We are here for the case studies, the how did they do it, and why did it work? The conversations that pull back the curtain on what makes great advertising, well, great, right? And of course, in the Ghanaian context, as we know it. So if you're a marketer, you're a copywriter, you're a brand manager, a creative director, or anyone working in advertising and marketing in Ghana, and you've been wondering where you can find relevant conversations about the industry you've been working in for decades, this podcast is for you. And even if you're not in the industry, but you're just curious about how great campaigns come together, you're curious about how your friend who says he's a marketer or she's a marketer or she works in an agency, what they really do, you are invited to. This podcast is for you, so do pull up a chair. And in this season, we're starting with something that's been hiding in plain sight, or should I say plain sound, for decades. I have just one job here. Season 1 is all about music and advertising in Ghana, and not just any music, but the kind that gets stuck in your head, the kind that makes you remember a brand 20 years after you first heard of it. I can't get certain brands out of my head. We will talk about it later, but the kind of music that turns a 30-second commercial into a cultural moment. We know many of them. I'm sure you can list them. Over the next several episodes, we will talk to the people who made these campaigns happen. Who are they? You'd ask. They are the producers who crafted the sound. They are the marketers who bet on the music itself. The artists who lent their voices. The regulators who had to draw the lines on what can be done and what can't be done. And the consumers, you and I, who, well, never forgot. But before we get into all of these conversations, we need to set the stage. I'm going to provide context. How did music become such a powerful tool in advertising globally and specifically, most importantly, here in Ghana? What makes it work? And why does it matter that you and I understand this? And so by the end of this episode, I have one promise to you. You know exactly why we are spending an entire season on this topic. And most importantly, you will never listen to a jingle the same way again. So let's start at the beginning. In the beginning, no, scratch that. Long before radio, long before jingles, there were something called street cries. Merchants in medieval Europe, as far back as the 13th century, would sing about their wares. Fresh strawberries, nice blackberries. They were simple melodies to cut through the noise of the marketplace. It wasn't advertising as we know it. It was pure survival. If you couldn't be heard, you can't sell. Fast forward to the 1880s, thereabout, in America, the rise of vaudeville, the first truly modern form of popular entertainment, variety shows with singing, dancing, comedy, and between acts, performers would sing catchy songs about products, entertainment and commerce mixing for the first time on stage. This was the bridge from street performance to modern advertising. Then came radio. Christmas Eve, 1926, Minneapolis, Minnesota. The Wheaties cereal company broadcast the world's first radio jingle.
Have you tried Wheaties? They're whole wheat with all of the bran. Won't you try?
It was simple, direct, memorable, and most importantly, it worked. Within months, Wheaties sales skyrocketed. Other companies took notice. By 1939, Pepsi followed with Pepsi Hits the Spot, the first nationally broadcast standalone single commercial. Music wasn't just accompanying ads anymore, it was the ad itself. But why did this work so well? Well, our brains are wired for music. Music activates our limbic system, the part of the brain that controls emotions and memory. When you hear a melody, you don't just process it, you feel it. And when the melody is tied to a brand, you remember it. By the 1960s and 70s, music in advertising had fully evolved. Brands started using popular music, which is real songs by real artists. Coca-Cola's I'd Like to Teach the World to Sing in 1971 became so popular that it was released as an actual single. The line between advertising and entertainment is completely gone. Now, while all of this was happening in Europe and America, what really was happening in Ghana, you'd ask? Well, I asked, and I'm going to tell you. Radio came to Gold Coast in 1935. Governor Sir Arnold Hudson introduced Radio ZOY on July 31st, a wired relay station broadcasting BBC programs to European merchants and a small number of privileged Ghanaians. By 1943, a local language broadcasting began. Chi, Ga, Fanti, Ewe, Hausa, and Ghana gained independence in 1957. The service became the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. Television followed in 1965. Commercial broadcasting was introduced in 1967. But here's where the story gets interesting and a bit frustrating. Because between 1935, when radio arrived, and the late 1990s, we don't have much documentation about what was happening with music in Ghanaian advertising. The archives are thin, the records are scattered, the institutional memory is fading. And that's exactly why projects like this podcast, Mad Conversation, documenting these stories matters so much, and it's dear to my heart. What we do know really is Ghana had its own tradition of musical advertising long before radio. You've seen it, you've heard it. Cars mounted with megaphones, looped music on repeat, driving through town, sometimes traveling kilometers to reach village folks. Sometimes in our communities here in Accra, selling medication, selling hope, selling relief. This wasn't imported from the West. This was ours. Our own version of street cries. Our way of using sound to cut through distance and reach people. When we pick up the documented trail in the late 1990s, something new is happening in the scene. Hiplife has exploded. It's the sound young Ghanaians were onto. It's urban, it's bold, it's modern, and advertisers wanted in. Asphom creates a full-blown Hiplife song featuring TikTok and Obrafo, two of the hottest names in the game at the time. Ejari Kono, Ojamadebi. That is not just a jingle, it's a hit. People are playing it at parties, it's everywhere. I heard it. But here's what's really fascinating. The Hiplife experiment was brief. Asphom is really the one that everyone remembers. There weren't many others that stuck, and why is the question. Because by the mid-2000s, brands, especially alcoholic brands, realized that something critical was happening. The sound that works in Ghana is the sound of Ghana, which is high life. Angel, Feji Keke, I don't go for me go. These jingles came after the Hiplife era. Now lie? Not before. And they were almost all rooted in high life. Not because high life was trendy, because high life was familiar. It was the music of the people who were buying these products. It was a sound that felt like home. Advertisers learned that if you want to connect with your audience, speak their musical language. Today, we're seeing a blend. We've seen Kwame Eugene do something for Adonko Next Level. We've seen Shatawale do something for Storm Energy Drink. A mix of genres, a mix of generations, but the principle remains the same. The sound that resonates is a sound that the people already love. Globally, music in advertising started with street cries, evolved through vaudeville, and exploded with radio. But in Ghana, we had our own parallel tradition: mobile advertising, looped melodies, music as commerce. And when radio and television arrived, we didn't just copy what the West was doing, we adapted, we made it ours. We used our sound to sell our product to our own people, and that's why those jingles stuck. So we know the history. Music and advertising works globally and in Ghana. But here's what I keep wondering. Why does it seem to work differently here? Because a jingle can be catchy anywhere, really. But in Ghana, jingles seem to have become a part of our language, part of the culture. You don't just remember Angel Feji Keke. You say it, you reference it. The ad becomes the metaphor. You think of be a dear and one club that it's a part of you. But is it because we are an oral culture? Is it because music is how we pass down stories, how we mark time, how we process emotions? Is it because when you hear a jingle in Ga, in Tree, in Ever, it doesn't feel like a sales pitch, but rather like someone speaking your language, like home? Is it a sound itself? Is that high life guitar string, that rhythm that makes you know exactly where you are and who you are? Or is it the radio, the fact that it's everywhere, in the car, in the shop, in the market? So we all hear these jingles together at the same time, sing them together, make them a part of our shared experience. I think that it's all of these things, a cocktail of all of these things. Music as identity, oral tradition, local language, cultural sound, radio as communal space. But really, don't take any of my words for it. Well, after all, I'm just about a decade in here, in this industry. There are people who are 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades in. And in the coming episodes, I'll be talking to all of these people, all of these relevant people who can give us the right answers. And we'll piece it all together, corroborate it, see if what I'm saying is true or is truly the case. So you need to come back to this channel and come back as often as you write those campaign briefs so we can dissect it together. Well, that's the setup. We have the history, we have the questions, and the cultural foundation that we are trying to build on. But the real work, that starts now. Over the next several episodes, like I've mentioned, we are talking to the people who created them, funded them, performed them, regulated them, and remembered them. We will sit with the music producers who crafted those sounds, the ones who figured out how to make a 30-second sound feel like a song you've heard your entire life. We'll talk to the marketers who made the calls, who decided which artist, which sound, which message to use, and how they measured whether it worked. We'll hear from the artists themselves, the voices behind the brands, what it's like to become synonymous with a product, and how endorsements shaped their career. Where artistic integrity met with commercial interest. We'll speak with the regulators as well, the people who drew the lines or still draw the lines and enforce them, what's allowed, what's not, and why those rules really exist in the first place. And we'll also talk to the consumers, the people on the other end of all of this, how music influences their choices and what they remember, what they want to see more of because nostalgia. We are building something here, and it's an archive, a record of how music and advertising came together in Ghana to create something truly unforgettable. The case studies, the real stories, the strategies that worked and why. Here on Mad Conversations. And this season, it's just the beginning. Here's the thing. Those jingles that you and I can't forget, they are not accidents. I'm sure you're catching on by now. They are blueprints for understanding the Ghanaian consumer. And in this season, we are decoding them. But I can't do this alone. This conversation is bigger than one person. It's bigger than one podcast. It's bigger than one season, certainly. So here's what I need from you. First, subscribe to this channel. Make sure you don't miss an episode at all, because every conversation we have builds on the last one, and you'll want to be here for all of it. Second, share this. Send it to your colleagues, your creative team, your marketing group chats, anyone who has ever wondered why some campaigns stick and others don't. This is for them. And third, come back to the next episode. We're starting the real conversations, and trust me, you want to be here for what's coming. This is Mad Conversations. I'm Abeiku Dadson, and I'll see you in the next one.